Hello, this is Ken Ferry with this week's Boots in the Field report. One more round of rain this past weekend. Reports coming in from 7/10 to 4.3 inches. In some areas, this rain will about wrap it up for the season. In other areas, well, it'll get us through another week. It was amazing in the drier areas how fast this ground gobbled up that rain. By Tuesday, it looked like we got a ½ inch instead of 3 inches. Very little runoff. Most of it went right down the cracks. In the drier areas, many fields did already give up the tips in the corn, especially those L2 hybrids. Now, growers are discouraged with that tip loss, and in many cases, a good 5 kernels, we're talking 25, 30 bushel that disappeared from the tip. And while this loss isn't very pleasant, this rain will help us gain back some kernel depth. So we can gain back some of that loss just in kernel size, especially if this rain continues and we can fill out strong. We continue to deal with both spider mite and aphids in the corn. Spider mite patches in the corn are now visible from the air in drone and aerial imagery, showing up in the corn as wilting. The corn's actually wilting. You can see that from above. When we scout these areas, the wilting that we're seeing out there, this corn has spider mites well above the ear. Now, most of these plants have already blown the tips, and in some cases, the ears are tipped. The crazy thing is, these spots are showing up in fields that had adequate water. It just couldn't handle the mite pressure. Again, this mite pressure was an aftermath of 2 fungicide sprayings that flared them. With nothing in the fungicide package from an insect scenario to take out the mites. With cooler temps and more moisture, we're seeing more northern leaf blight in the corn. Most of the infections are in the top of the canopy, indicating these spores are blowing in. We continue to find more tar spot, but nothing like last year currently here in Tar Spot Alley. We did see a field of tar spot here in DeWitt County this week. Starting to see some dead corn stalks due to stalk and crown rots this week. Now, these fields were not sprayed with the fungicide. They were clean of spider mites, and most of the aphids population showed signs of disease. Now, some plants were obviously dead, and others were dropping ears on their way to dying, and those ears were very rubbery, premature death. With the new moisture and cooler temps, all fields will start to light up with disease from here forward. This will have a bigger effect on those hybrids that get their yield punch from kernel depth. This rain was a money maker in beans as well. It'll help slow bean abortion and add some size to these beans. This week we continue to see white mold showing up as we walk the fields. SDS can be seen from the road in some fields. The strongest visible SDS are April planted fields with no seed treatments. These really have changed in 1 week. I guess hence the name sudden death. We visited some stronger pockets of SDS in May planted beans and beans treated with SDS treatment. These areas so far have had 2 things in common: high cyst pressure and compaction. If you're finding heavy cyst pressure in your cyst beans, take note of what race your bean is resistant to, because your cyst population has gone around your resistance. This week we found white mold and SDS in a field that has been corn on corn for 20 years. I find this amazing. Many fields are missing the bottom pods, and I see several 1 and 2 bean pods up and down the stem, indicating seasonal stress. I think these rains are going to give us some good size to these beans, helping us to finish with some pretty respectable bean yields. Areas that were able to hold the tip in the corn are going to see some phenomenally very strong yields in corn as well. Get a quick crop report from Matt Duesterhaus, who is one of our regional agronomists over in the Quincy area. Works with Ursa over there. Matt, what are you finding out in your fields? You guys have been, I think, a little bit more fortunate on the waterfront than we are here at Hayworth.
Yeah, we've had good rain all the way up through the end of July, and now things are starting to tip the other way. We got a couple 2-3 tenths rains to keep us moving along, but I think everybody's really hoping for that 1 or 2 inch rain to really punch us through in grain fill and pod fill in the beans. But we've had cool mornings, dewy mornings. That's helping out on the heat and the stress front. But it's promoting a little bit more of this disease. We've been finding some tar spot, and especially in April planted corn and some more susceptible hybrids, we're starting to see that tar spot expand a little bit. So it's something we're keeping an eye on. We've put out a couple plots with a second dose of fungicide application to see how that'll pan out. Some of these fields are quarter to a third milk line, so we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks to finish. We're hoping we can get there, but like you guys saw last year in Hayworth, we know this tar spot can hit pretty hard, pretty fast. So we want to make sure we get to the finish line.
So is this tar spot homegrown, coming from the bottom up, or you start to see it up at the top of the plant?
So I think it's more homegrown. We've seen it start in the lower canopy, kind of a couple leaves below the ear, but it's in corn on corn fields and corn on bean fields both. So it's out there and it's moving up. You can find lesions in the top part of the plant, but majority of that tar spot is kind of right in the ear zone. So
how's it been progressing? Is this something you've seen for weeks, or is it more or less in the last 10 days or something like that?
Yeah, we really didn't find any tar spot through July. I mean, here and there was reports, but the first tar spot that I found was last week Monday in a field in the river bottom. The tar spot that we're finding in a matter of 1 week has gone from a lesion or two on a plant to pretty much taking up, an area the size of your palm of your hand on a certain leaf, or a couple leaves on the same plant. So it is expanding. It's not in every hybrid. It's not in every field. But where it is there, it's something we need to pay attention to, especially with the environment we got in the forecast for the next week or two.
Are you seeing much difference in the fields that were sprayed at tassel time, or is it fungicide pretty much wore out there and it's showing up there as well?
So we were finding these in fields that had been sprayed already. So fields that were sprayed probably at least 30 days prior. So that fungicide is maybe wearing off or not controlling that disease. But, like we saw in the past plots, we're not going to eliminate tar spot just because we spray fungicide. Part of that equation is keeping the plant healthy. And there was more benefits last year to your fertility program, your fungicide program, anything you did to keep that corn greener longer made a difference in yield. So we're kind of taking that same approach this year, seeing what kind of things we can do to manage not just the disease tar spot, but the plant health altogether.
And we're seeing that evidence here locally under our irrigation. We're fighting spider mites, whether it's irrigation or not, due to some of the blow-ups that we've had with fungicide. But now in the part of the leaf that has the spider mite damage that you can see, that's where the tar spot's starting to show up on our irrigated corn here. So it's, again, that sign of weakness sure seems to let this disease take off.
Right, it's kind of an opportunistic disease, whatever entry point it can get, whatever weakens the plant, that seems to promote more tar spot.
On the bean front, what you think you're looking at for your bean crop over there?
I mean, it's always hard to guess the beans. We'd like to get that good 1 or 2 inches of rain. We're kind of right in the middle of filling these pods right now. Seeing a little bit of SDS in the field scattered throughout. Don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but it is out there. So that's something to keep an eye out for. I think with some of these beans in the area, and we don't have as many early beans as what we're used to, so we may have to tame back some of our expectations in terms of, guys have been used to growing 70 and 80 plus bushel beans. This year might be a year where we see more 60s and 70s. But again, the rain we get from here going forward is going to determine a lot of that.
That's right. Yeah, you had a rain here at the end of August, and you can stack a lot on the top of that bean. If we don't get that rain, unfortunately, you can take a lot off the middle of the bean too. So we're kind of in the same boat. I think we got a good bean crop, but I'm not as optimistic about the bean crop as I am the corn crop.
Yeah. I think in our area on the western side of the state, you know, a lot of the good soils are really hanging on, and you've got the moisture there, and we're maybe not as dry as what we think we are. Get into some of the clay hillsides, and the farther we go west into Missouri, some of the tougher soils we can really see starting to fade. Any sort of stress or sins of the spring are showing up. We see yellow pockets showing up. We see corn starting to burn up a little bit on those tight clay soils. So we're definitely losing some potential there in the tough ground.
Are you seeing any of the spider mite issues that we're dealing with sporadically over here in that Missouri ground?
We haven't seen any spider mites yet. I don't know that they're not still coming, but the further we get to the finish line, the better off we're going to be there. But it's going to be something that we got to watch out for if this dry weather continues.
So it sounds like you're like a lot of the central Illinois anyway, you're got a lot riding on the next 20, 30 days as far as whether we're going to knock out the bean and corn crop we want. We just need these timely showers to keep coming.
Yep.
Appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Ken.
To stay up to date, check out our website at croptechinc.com and subscribe to our podcast, Boots in the Field Report. Keep her safe, keep her moving.